Hey Alice, welcome back. You're here at a good time. I have Mr. Tyler Nacho joining us. Thanks for being here.
Hello.
I'm loving your room,
Thank you. Yeah, got the puppets.
the whole gang.
Yeah, this is kind of my studio where I make a lot of my puppets.
Hell yeah. It's very colorful. You have like a wide variety of different colors going on with your puppets. It's very
Uh,
even the room itself is aesthetic.
Yeah, I have like a real visceral reaction to color. It's like emotional for me. So I'm always dressed really colorfully and I just love bright colors.
Hell yeah. Well,
Yeah.
the way we met was I saw your puppet show when you came through Nashville, Death to Realism, and I was really just I was impressed with the way you conveyed like occult topics in a fun way that was very accessible. Um, and also I was just touched by how profoundly raw the experience was. Um, and I've been really looking forward to talking to you, man. I think what you do is really important, and I'd love to see it again.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I Death to Realism, for people that don't know, is a one-man show that I've been traveling with for a few years, and it's three puppets in a box, and I come in and out of the box, and I do songs, and the puppets do songs, and it's really about trying to convince. It's for people that don't know anything about magic, kind of trying to convince them that maybe magic is real and trying to teach some very basic manifestation techniques in a way where I start with the comedy and get people laughing. And then once they're laughing, I start sneaking in some real information. So they let their guards down a little with the comedy, and then they actually can get some useful stuff also. But yeah, there's a lot of vulnerability to it too. I have a puppet that comes out named Ula, and Ula will like have one-on-one conversations with people, and oftentimes it gets kind of like a little therapy session. I've had a lot of people tell me that's like puppet therapy or something.
Yeah, I talked to the great Ulaf for a bit, and it felt very therapeutic to like it's like difficult stuff that I don't usually talk about, but you got me comfortable enough to talk about like in a whole room of people, and it did feel very therapeutic.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think there's something a little easier about talking to a puppet, you know? It's like there's no gender, there's no age, there's no you don't feel judged when you're talking to a puppet. And I think when you're talking to a human, you're kind of picking up all these little micro expressions, and you're kind of trying to decide what are they thinking, how did they feel about the thing I just said, all this stuff. And when you talk to a puppet, you're not getting any of that. So it kind of lets your mind uh, let go a little bit and wander, you know?
Yeah, yeah, it is kind of it's maybe all puppets should be therapists, or all therapists should be puppets. Both. How about both?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But you also have a magazine with new issue out.
Yeah, so I've been making magazines my whole life. I've been making like zines, but I started making an actual like real color magazine called Kill Pretty a few years ago. And Kill Pretty is 140 pages with no ads, all content, and it's color and it's very dense. There's a lot of interviews with my favorite artists and features on like everything from filmmakers to skateboarders, comedians, sex, drugs, rock and roll, everything in between. A lot of humor. And yeah, I'm just releasing the new issue right now, and there's a lot of things in it that I'm really hyped on. Um, yeah, I got to interview an ayahuasca shaman about what it's like to be a shaman in a ceremony, which is like I've always wanted to know what, because I've heard people talk about their ayahuasca stories before, but what I really wanted to know is like what it's like for the shaman and working with different entities and stuff like that. And we Probably my favorite interview was this chick named Tamra Davis, and Tamra Davis directed um, Chris Rock's first comedy movie, CB4, Dave Chappelle's first comedy movie, Half Baked, and
Whoa.
Adam Sandler's first comedy movie, Billy Madison.
Holy
All
shit.
three. Crazy. And she's best friends with Basquiat growing up. She's like one of the few people that got to videotape Basquiat painting and made the Basquiat documentary. She made the Bikini Kill documentary about Catherine Hanna. She married a Beastie Boy. She's so cool.
Wow.
She's so interesting. And yeah, I got to interview her, which I'm just was so hyped on.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I can't wait to read it, man.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah. There's a lot in it. It's really fun.
Um, are you familiar with the concept like of karmic law? Like, like, uh,
Outside of the idea of karma.
um, at least this is what I've heard it referred to as. But basically, if you can trick someone into something, then you are absolved of the, uh, I guess, the guilt of that. Like, it's not your responsibility. If you manipulate someone or trick someone, it's not you're not responsible for that. Have you ever heard about this as a philosophy?
So can you give me an example? Like if I tricked someone into like falling off a ledge, I'm not, I'm excused from killing them.
Yes. And now, I don't believe this. I was just wondering if
Okay,
you're
okay.
familiar with this.
No,
Um,
I'm not.
okay, so like examples. I don't know why I didn't just start with an example, but like a cigarette pack has a big warning label that says like this product will give you cancer, basically.
Right.
So it's not they're not responsible for giving you cancer. You did that of your own free will.
Hmm. It seems convenient.
Yeah, it's how like a lot of like in demonology and in um you know at least certain ideas I've heard about like the bureaucracy of demons. It's kind of like bound by certain laws. And um, basically, if you consent to something, then they're allowed to do that to you, kind
Hmm.
of thing.
The thing that comes up for me when you say that is like intention. Like I think if you create cigarettes and someone comes to you and says, you know how many you're gonna kill a lot of people doing this, and you say, yeah, it's worth it to me though, because I love money. There's like the intention is baked in that like you're willing to murder these people in order to like get money, right? Or if like my intention in like tricking you to fall off the cliff is to hurt you, then like it seems to me like that wouldn't absolve you, right?
Oh, I totally agree with you.
Okay.
I
Okay.
100% agree. I was more just presenting an idea.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
but yeah, I absolutely agree. It's some backwards ass logic. It doesn't really absolve you of anything. Um, I really where I'm getting at with this is I think in Hollywood, sometimes we're presented with concepts to kind of put it into the zeitgeist, kind of like a form of hypnosis, where like basically prophecies fulfill themselves. So if you put it into the minds of people, they'll cause it to happen, or at least when it starts to happen, they won't recognize it as reality. They'll see it as like fiction, right? Um, I think a lot of ideas are put in front of us in a way that looks ridiculous to kind of hide like real like ongoings. And I think that these people justify it by saying that basically if you can trick them, then they deserve to be tricked, basically.
Hmm.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
Um, Unfortunately, your video cut out at the beginning of the sentence that you were saying, but so let me just recap what you said. So you're saying that like someone creates something in Hollywood with the intention of tricking people into what, making that a reality or believing a thought or what?
Yeah, sorry. I don't know why it cut out, but basically, yeah, you can get people to manifest a thing subconsciously by putting it into the zeitgeist. It also that's like on the more woo-woo side. What it
Yeah,
definitely
right.
does is what it does to your psychology about like seeing it as fantasy, not as reality.
Well, I think that if you're modeling behavior, people are going to pick up on that subconsciously. Like I'm a big believer that we that before television, like every city had its own kind of type of person. Like there was people from Chicago versus people from Los Angeles, right? And then television basically was feeding us certain types of humans, and you still have, a difference between people in Chicago and people in Los Angeles. But I think like feeding us this is what a human acts like, this is what a person looks like, it kind of homogenizes humans as a whole and creates kind of like way more like less types of people. So like when you're creating anything and you're feeding it to the masses, you're making it more likely to happen because like basically like as you grow up you're given like a choice of all the things a human is and all the things a human can do, and you can be creative and think outside of that, but a lot of people aren't. A lot of people are kind of choosing from a menu. So if like you're creating a version of a human that like if we didn't know anything about serial killers, maybe there would be less serial killers, but the idea that like serial killers exist maybe gives people the idea like, oh, that is an option. I could like hunt humans, maybe.
Yeah, I
Does that
totally.
fit into what you're saying?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Right.
I was thinking on like a more conspiratorial scale, like a large scale. But I think that what you just pointed to is like evidential, right? It's like people fall into these archetypes and they're getting like fewer and far between. Like the bigger idols get, the less diversity in idols there are, basically.
Totally. Yeah.
Monolithic. Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally agree with you. Um, yeah, I guess how deep into like conspiracy theory stuff are you? How much of that?
I go in and out. I have a pretty bad memory. I've had a bad memory my whole life, and I actually equate that to why I'm so happy. I'm like a really happy person. And so I do a lot of research on conspiracy, but it doesn't all stick in my brain. I typically like I actually made a conspiracy magazine called Mindfuck. That's all about the celebration of conspiracy theory, and it's like a mixture of really fun conspiracies, like Avril Lavigne being a clone, and real conspiracy theories like Epstein shit. And I'm kind of always dipping my toe into it. I think that when COVID happened, it made conspiracy theories a little less fun because a lot of them they kind of became like way more racist and like weird, and I got a little nervous. Like it felt like conspiracy theories used to be interesting and fun, and then it kind of for a while, and I feel like it's falling back now, but I think for a while it started feeling like if you're a conspiracy theorist, you're also like a racist or something
Like,
with
yeah,
like QAnon stuff. And so I don't know. I kind of like I do read a lot of conspiracy, but I also try and I'm a sensitive person, and I think when I get to like politics right now are so fucking horrible that when I dive too deep into it, it can really start affecting my mental health. So, I kind of juggle it. I love it, but I also try and have a healthy relationship with it.
I'm still trying to figure that one out. I unfortunately am like way too plugged in, and it
Yeah,
does
yeah,
take it severe there's severe consequences to my mental health sometimes for sure.
yeah. It's scary, and people can straight up lose their minds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Crazy world. And it's like, I am quite sure that it is way more bleak than I could possibly understand, you know. But I appreciate your optimism. I appreciate like I it's not even necessarily optimism, it's just choosing to be happy. Like I think that's a great practice.
I also think that everything in our universe is really incredibly interwoven, and everything kind of connects, and it's really easy to find connections. Um, and the problem is once you find some really weird random connections, you start believing that every weird random connection is real. And I'll watch people talk about conspiracies, and it's like step one to step two is real. Step two to step three is real. Step three to step four is real. And then they make this weird leap that's like really subtle, that's actually doesn't have a connection. And then they keep going. And it's like when you don't have a mind looking for those leaps in logic, it's where you really can spiral out. And like looking for that moment when the person that's like putting the dots together, like suddenly made instead of like a connection that was based on something real, made a connection based on like a feeling that they had inside themselves, or like a Facebook post they read or something like that, rather than like something researched. It just gets like, or like an assumption, like because this and this, because this and this, then obviously this and this. And it's like, okay, I mean, I hate skeptics more than anyone. I can't stand skeptics, but it's important, I think, in your personal journey to like have that mind just to keep yourself sane, you know?
Critical thinking, absolutely.
Yeah.
Challenge what you believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've definitely fallen into that like neurotic territory where I'm recognizing patterns that don't exist. And yeah, definitely been there. Um, yeah, I agree with you about it used to be a lot more fun to be conspiratorial. Now it's like the conspiracy theories are dangerous and not really helpful to anything, you know?
They're also just so dark. I mean,
Yeah,
all this Epstein stuff, it's so you know, you it's like I get interested in it because it's so exciting, and then and then at some point you hit a wall where you're realizing like what I'm actually reading about, and it's like, oh God, do I really want to spend 2 hours focusing on that today? Like,
yeah,
especially when I can't do anything about it. It's like, you know, how much energy I choose to learn about the Epstein list. It's like it's so fascinating, but also my personal experience is not going to have much effect on like the justice of those crimes.
yeah, for sure.
So it's tough, you know?
It is. You know, like the ultimate conspiracy theory, you were talking about the interconnectedness of things.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, like Shiva or Yahweh or something is the ultimate conspiracy theory, where it's
Like,
like everything is design.
right.
Yeah. It's like, and that's where my mind ends up going a lot of the time too, is it's like, yeah, of course it's connected. And there's this huge overarching plan, is because it supersedes humanity and goes like all the way to the maximum scale. I guess my view of God is kind of synonymous with there not being a God, where it's like sort of the oneness, like all in one, one is all. Like I am you and you are me, as you are he and we are all together, you know? Which is kind of the ultimate conspiracy, is like, yes, everything is organized and dominoed into a certain effect, and it's totally inescapable, but also you did it.
Well, I'm a big believer that like there's things are organized, and then if you zoom out more, it's all chaos. And then if you zoom out more, it's all organization. And then you zoom out more and it's all chaos. And it just goes infinitely in both directions, like a fractal. And it can never, there's no maximum, but also like uh I think that one thing when we discuss like how the universe works, I think a lot about like we're doing this all from the brain of a like evolved monkey, right?
Mhm.
So like a computer can only be as much as a computer cannot think outside of the limits of its programming. And like to think that the monkey brain could like conceive of how the universe operates, it kind of feels a little silly to me. So I imagine like at some point you get like up into the organization chaos, and then we get to a place where like our brains are just not able to even process how the connections work, or like how
Hmm.
does karma really function. Like it's just so insanely complicated. And like yeah, it's everything. It's just like when you hear about people, hundreds of years ago trying to describe things, they're doing it in the terms of what they know around them. They go
Hmm.
like the brain is an engine, and then the brain was a calculator, and then it's like they're just doing it relating to whatever they have. And it's like, yeah, we're still doing that. And and like, in 100 years, we'll have a more evolved, a more nuanced version of what we think the universe is, but still, we'll still be in the confines of like, our limited scope of like, of these two eyeballs.
Yeah.
So it's like, it feels sometimes I like talking about it when it feels useful, but sometimes it feels so impossible to know that it feels a little like staring into a black hole or something.
Oh,
I'm just
yeah, for sure. I tend to like I think about these things a lot, and it's kind of like I like getting other people's perspectives on it, but it's not necessarily helpful or like leads to any like, you know, it's like
yeah.
not really a lot you could do. What like one of those, it doesn't matter basically, and there's not really much you could do with the information if you did know.
I have a close friend that really does believe that, we're all one person, we're all one God. And that's always really bothered me because there's just certain people in this world that I look at and I'm just like, I'm not that guy. And
It's
I,
an
and so,
uncomfortable thing. Yeah,
yeah. And
it's
so
not good.
I have, this is probably my ego speaking, but I've come to the realization that, there are like seven gods.
Hmm.
I'm like God number three, and maybe you're also God number three, or maybe you're God number five, or something like that.
That's a much more comfortable thought for sure.
Right?
That's much, yeah. So the thing for me, and this is like, I don't know, there's no way for me to say this and not sound like arrogant, but I'm gonna do my best, is like I was raised really religiously. I was a Jehovah's Witness for a long time. And what's funny is they don't believe in a Trinity, but the Trinity is like, it's in the Catholic doctrine, it's in a lot of doctrines. And they call it the mystery of the Trinity, at least in Catholicism, uh, because they admittedly don't understand it. It's paradoxical. It's one within three, three make up one, but they're all the same, but they're not. And that's why it's the mystery, because it couldn't make sense. We can't explain it. So I guess all that to say, uh, this is what Christians think, is that we are all one thing. Like Jesus is the Son of God, which is just God. Like that, it's God made flesh, and that's what they don't. Christians don't read the Bible, so they don't know this, but that's what Christianity is. And I am like, that's my opinion, that's my theory, right? But I feel pretty strong about that in my research of it. And I think a lot of religions play with this idea of oneness. So it's just, I guess what I'm saying is a lot of religions do this, and not necessarily the practitioners are aware of that. That's like Yahweh is an inhale and an exhale sound, like in, out. It's the alpha omega, it's all things. So it's also the four Hebrew characters for earth, water, air, fire. So whenever it's personified as an entity, that's a way of explaining a concept to people. But really, ancient Jews didn't believe like in a man in the clouds. Like Israelites had a very scientific approach to what God was. And we've kind of lost that with like modern Christianity. But I guess, yeah, I think that is like a widely attributed idea in religions. I've noticed just doing like cross examination of different stuff. Um, and at a certain point, I think it it's there's this Alan Moore quote. I'm sorry, I'm rambling. I'll get off this in a
No,
second.
it's okay.
Um, I really love Alan Moore, and he has this quote. He says, "The language about magic is more about language than it is about magic." And then it's like, yeah, when you start talking about these things, you realize how language is this blunt instrument for what we're trying to wrap our heads around. And because at a certain point, it's all semantics, whether we're all God or there is no God. What's the difference at that point? It's basically an atheist statement. You're saying there is nothing above you because everything is one thing. That's like there being not no God, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. 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 It's,
Sorry.
I think it helps to, when you're angry at someone, seeing them as part of you, but ultimately, yeah, I struggle with empathy for people who are really, really mean and have no empathy. And I think like believing that we're all the same or that if I was in their shoes, I would make the same choices. Um, I think it's a nice thing to say, but I have a pretty hard time swallowing that pill. I mean, I can to a certain degree, but there's certain crimes against humanity that I refuse to believe that I would make those decisions if I were them. But who knows? Hard to say because I didn't live their life, but yeah, it's a little scary when you start seeing the way people choose to act, even just people local to you. It doesn't even have to be famous evil people, just some of your bosses or some random person in line, the way people can act is like can be pretty surprising at times. So yeah, it feels confusing to think of them as kind of on the same level when they're just out there hurting people, you know?
Yeah, it's a very like uncomfortable thought. It's a determinism is like a practice of empathy, and empathy is not always productive, and it could like it's not comfortable for sure.
What's
Uh,
determinism?
so do you, I could answer that. I think I would like to answer with a question. Do you believe in a soul?
Hmm. I believe, yeah, I guess I do believe in a soul. Um, I definitely believe that when we die, there's a lot more going on afterwards. And so I would have to imagine that, I guess, it depends on your definition of a soul, but to me, what a soul means is it means there is an identity that exists inside of me that will keep existing after my physical body dies. So yeah, yeah.
I gotcha. And that thing kind of informs like decisions that you make.
It's like my life force. It's like my what animates my body, maybe the energy that animates my body. It's like my consciousness or
I
something
gotcha.
like that. That like continues on in other ways after I die.
Yeah, I gotcha. That makes sense to me, and I agree with that. So like determinism would be uh, you look at someone like Stalin and say like, well, I would never make the same decisions that that person made.
Right.
Um, and it's like, well, to truly put yourself in their shoes, you would have to have the same exact brain that they do. You would have to have basically you take it to a point of like, well, you would do exactly what they do down to the millisecond because you have no other choice but to do that. It's very fatalistic. I also believe in a soul. So I don't, there's this dichotomy between like free will and determinism, like predestination versus having control over your actions. Then there's another thing called compatibility theory, which basically says these things are not actually in conflict with each other.
Mm,
So a way of looking at that would be like you do have a soul, but you didn't choose your soul. So even that is predestined. So it's like
mm.
you wouldn't do that, but you're you and they're them. And that kind of like if you imagine that this is all a painting and it's already happened, then it's kind of like saying it's well, you will do exactly what you will do because you've already done it
Right, right.
thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I actually just did a whole essay about my theory on destiny. I have this little zine that's called Satanic Buddhist. That's like kind of a diary zine, a personal zine about like what's going on in my life. I could share my philosophy with you about that
I
if you
would
want.
love that. Yeah.
So what I believe is you're you've got like a certain programming, and that is your environment, your what nature and nurture, right? It's how, genetically how you were born, the DNA, all that. And then it's like the place where you grew up, the things that happened to you when you were a child, the way your parents treated you, traumatic events. That's your nurture. And so you're given this kind of programming, and at some point, you start making your own decisions. I mean, some people stay a baby their entire lives, but most of us come into consciousness and start making our own decisions. And there's basically, given your nature and your nurture, there's these certain life events that are these big moments. And that could be like someone in your life dies, or you get a job that makes you move, or you fall in love, or something like that. And all those are kind of determined by that nature nurture thing and are like set in time. And how you get to those moments, there's a bunch of smaller ones. And you have like kind of a bunch of little choices to make along the way, that take you from small moment to small moment. But at any point, chaos can ensue, and you can read a book that changes your philosophy, or meet someone that you have this interesting conversation with, and that has now affected your nurture. And now all of those big moments, if it affects it enough, those big fatalistic moments can shift. And so there's basically like, infinite timelines of where you can go. And this incarnation of you in this physical space, um, the exact timeline that you're going to go down isn't completely chosen, but my timeline to be like the president of Africa, that is not, there is no timeline where that happens. Like I've made enough choices where that possibility does not exist for me, right? And so like while it is narrowing down the older I get and the more nurture I get, because it's harder to kind of change my nurture the older I get for most people, the amount of like timelines that you have are smaller and smaller and smaller, but they can still be altered. And ultimately, that's kind of how I hold free will and fate and time being a circle and all that in the same hand.
I love that. You're really good at like painting pictures and illustrating these concepts.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. You do it in such a fun way.
Well, one thing that really changed my life is I'm like a workaholic, and I for my whole life I really believed like if I wanted something, I was gonna fucking like um strong arm reality into being the way I wanted it to be. I was like, if I wanted to when I traveled to Berlin, I wanted to do a show. So how I strong armed reality to do a show is I emailed 300 venues. And that was like me. I'm putting in the physical labor to force this thing into happening. And that's how I've done a lot of things in my life by like sheer will, determination, and hard work. And one thing that I've realized is like how I describe it is imagine you have like a an art show that you're going to make happen. And you need to raise a certain amount of money to make this art show happen. And you start raising the money, and suddenly, like weird random things come up that slow you down. You're like, oh, I don't know, the gas in my car, like my gas leaked and my car needs to get fixed. Oh, like this person fell out that promised they would. It's like you're getting these signs from the universe that like this is not gonna happen. This is not easy. And so you have two choices. You can kind of like listen to the universe and be like, actually, this just doesn't seem like it's flowing and make a change, or you can kind of like strong arm your way into making it happen. And like both way and so like let's say you raise the money and you get your car fixed and you make the show happen. You do all this extra hard work, right? And you, oh man, I messed that example up a lot. You do a lot of extra hard work and you get the car fixed and you make it happen through sheer will. The other way is like you let go of that and you say, "What we're gonna just do whatever we're gonna do the art show, but we're gonna let go. Like we don't need to serve drinks. We don't need to have people there filming it. We're gonna let go some of the things because we don't have the money to do it. Let's just make the show happen anyway. Let's just see what flows. And then that way, where you took the easier route and you let some things go, either way, you still had that art show. And you either did it through kind of like listening to the universe or like strong arming your way and forcing it to happen. And I'm not saying give up when things are hard. I certainly don't do that. But finding a way to kind of listen to what's flowing and what's not. Like I didn't give up on doing the art show. I just was like some of these things I believed had to happen. Like I had to have the catering and I had to have, the cameras. Like I was like, you know what? Maybe I don't need those things. Maybe the art show isn't as big as it needs to be. And then I'm having the art show and I'm in a good mood versus like forcing it all to happen and making sure all this stuff happens and I'm miserable at my art show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So kind of like how you get to these major life events can be through like flowing with what the universe is giving you, or it can be through like grinding against everything the universe is telling you is happening?
Yeah. It kind of sounds like you're saying, but you can use both of these things and they both have results.
Right, but basically it's a mixture of both, but sometimes the shit just isn't working the way you want it to, and like learning how to let go and not decide it has to happen because you said so in your mind or whatever, you can just live like a kind of a more chill life, like finding like yeah, being able to kind of go with the flow a little more has been really hard for me, and it's been a
Mm.
big learning lesson. But learning how to pivot, learning how to like evolve with the situation, um, can be just huge in your overall well-being and happiness. Because we all
Yeah.
have like this vision of how we want our lives to be, and guess what? It's not going to be that way. So you can suffer through it not being that way, or you can like try and figure out how you want it to be and how it could be now that everything's different.
Yeah, for sure. It's mindset's really important. Setting your attention and your focus to if you want if you're trying to force things, it's about like manifesting, like what you demonstrated with people about stepping into yourself and visualization. Um, I thought those are really like context is the puppet show I saw uh,
Yeah.
of you doing that. I thought all that was such a really unique way to convey these things to people that maybe have not come across these concepts before. Yeah. Do you?
Magical thinking. It's very powerful.
Yeah, for sure. Um, when when you write and come up with stuff, do you I guess do you believe in like channeling? Where do you think art comes from?
It's definitely a really weird question for me, because I feel like when I get an idea, the entire idea comes to me in a flash. It's all happening at once. Like if this wasn't channeled, then I would assume that it would come through like a lot of putting pieces together over a long amount of time and like slowly piecing together something, but by like things making sense. But because like everything just get like I just get downloads, just dumps where it's like all of a sudden this is an entire piece of art finished. And that's what happens almost all the time for me. And so yeah, I mean, when I hear the word channeling, I think more of like someone that's like tapped directly into like one identity, one spirit, and is like letting that spirit speak through them. That's not what it feels like for me, but it does feel like I'm just like someone's just gifting me with the stuff.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, I've definitely done the hard work and I've like got a lot going on in my subconscious that's doing hard work. And I've kind of like been able to open the valve of creativity, but it's the way that the ideas come to me, they feel very like, where did that come from? Why do I just suddenly have that whole concept, you know?
I do know. Yeah. It's I agree with what you're saying. It's kind of a mix of a couple of things, right? It's like your like even just your nurture informs the stuff that you make. And that's you know thoughts that you have are a culmination of your life experience. And then there's also these like eureka, like flash of brilliance, like moments in life. Um, I talk to like a lot of artists, and that's like something I hear a lot is, um, it's different for everyone, for one thing, and uh, but also just not really couldn't really tell you how that thought came to be, like where the origin of it was. Um,
Oftentimes my the way that I do the idea will have a lot of inspiration from other artists. And like if you look at one of my pieces, I can tell you 1,000 different things that inspired it. But where the original idea came from, no idea.
yeah, yeah, it's yeah. We all take inspiration and just like even life experience, but there does seem like there's a divine spark sometimes, something like that. What
Yeah,
are you
big time.
typically doing when you get these flashes? Is there like any specific thing?
I spend a lot of time in my head like brainstorming. I also I have the way that my brain works is that I'm always kind of asking when I'm looking at everything. Like I go to the swap meet a lot. Every Monday I'll go to the swap meet and I like when I look at and I invent a lot of things. I have a lot of different inventions and I'm really interested in like product design and packaging design and I love toys and I love buying things. I love merch. And when I'm like, and the swap meet is basically just tons of that type of stuff. And so I'm always kind of asking, like, why did they make that decision? Why does it look like that? Why were those colors chosen? What was the concept behind this? I'm always trying, like, picking apart everything. And I'm kind of always also applying that to what because like a lot of times I'm buying toys specifically because they inspire me to make my own puppets or to make my own toys. So I'm kind of like I'm looking at a certain pair of eyes. I'm like, why do those eyes pop so hard? Like why is that so much funnier? Why is like the way that SpongeBob is drawn in the first season so much funnier than the way he's drawn in the movie? And I'm looking at the distance between the eyes and I'm looking at the so many little things like that. And so, and I'm constantly applying that to my own craft. So I think just the process of constantly breaking down why do things work and why does that make sense, and then trying to figure out is there a way for me to use that in my own art? It creates a like millions of little mini brainstorming sessions every day, all day long. And my brain's just like constantly hammering that kind of stuff. So I think it usually comes out of those little brainstorming sessions,
Yeah,
picking apart my reality.
I got you. You're kind of you're looking for it, kind of. Maybe not a specific thing, but you've got your mind attuned to like creation, I guess. Is that fair?
Oh yeah, yeah. I
I
mean,
got
I think we're all really fascinated in how the world works. I'm always surprised by how interested I am in and just the most random things that have nothing to do with me. Everyone wants to kind of know the behind the scenes on
you. Mm,
most things. We're just like interested creatures. And I also have like a lot of different applications for my art. So there's a lot of things that apply to my
yeah.
practice too, you know.
You sound like a very engineering mind, like
Yeah.
want to take things apart. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested in um the engineering of reality, like not necessarily like physics so much, but like um mind matter uh correlation and like how they influence each other, because that's
Mhm.
definitely something we've been talking about is how it's a feedback loop, like kind of like what's the um like art informs reality and reality informs art, something like that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what is it? Life imitates art and then imitates life or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Um do in your upbringing, what kind of um what were you presented with in terms of like entertainment, I guess like music, cartoons and stuff when you were little? What did you really
I think the
obsess with?
biggest inspiration for me was Ren and Stimpy. I think like 90% of my life is because of Ren and Stimpy.
Okay.
The fake commercials for products
Hmm.
is why I like making products. And it's why I'm obsessed with cereal boxes and why I'm obsessed with toys. The humor, the silliness, Ren and Stimpy really, it was so random too. And it was random in a way that felt in world, even though that made no sense. Like rubber nipple salesman, it had no reason to exist, but it all kind of fit in this world, and it was so extreme that it's definitely one of my biggest inspirations. But yeah, cartoons in general, Beavis and Butthead, Ren and Stimpy. Um, yeah, I was obsessed with film. Once I got into high school, I was watching, 1 to 2 movies a day for years and years. So horror movies were a really big inspiration. Monster design, kind of just create. I love the experience of seeing something novel, seeing something I've never seen before. And horror movies have the most novel stuff because they're kind of creating worlds that we've never seen, right? Like monster worlds or whatever. And that's kind of what I want to do with my art. I want to show people something they've never seen before, creating something like actually original. It's just what excites me the most is just being taken on a ride where I just I don't know what's coming next.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have one of your cereal boxes somewhere. I was looking for it earlier. I don't know where it's at now, but
Nice.
um, yeah, you do a wide variety of really interesting things. It's like a lot of variety. I think it's so much fun, but also like I think it's really important. Um, and like it's educational in a
Thanks.
way. Yeah, educational in a way that like I don't know where else you would really get this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Did
I
you?
hope that, it inspires people to live a more original life because That's what I'm constantly trying to do. And I know the people in my life, every once in a while you meet somebody that just is human in a way you've never seen before. And like it doesn't have to be anything they do. It could just be the way they talk or the way they move around a room. Every once in a while I meet someone that I'm like, "Whoa, I've never seen that flavor of human in my life."
Mm,
And it's such a freeing experience. It expands. I don't know. I feel like I feel like who I am as a human is just a mirror of all the people I've ever seen. And so when I meet someone that's completely new, it feels like it expands my ability to be me almost.
mm.
Like I'm like, "Oh, that's an option also."
Yeah,
And yeah, I hope that I can be that for other people in some way, you know?
yeah, man. I think it does in a very tangible, observable way too. Like that's like that's a fact. Like you're informed by everything that happens. I think, you know, something like really resonates with me about what you're saying is like if you're around children, they're extremely educational. So you ever spend time around little kids, it's like you learn a lot, like about especially about like creativity and like imagination. But it's
And
like,
your own programming.
yeah, it's like, yeah, and even going outside on a walk is like very educational if you're willing to learn and listen. Um, like
It ta
constant, yeah,
it takes a really inquisitive mind, you know, when you're talking about these things. I completely agree, but it requires you to be actively thinking, which I feel like a lot of us are trying to turn that brain off, you know?
mm. It's the seeker.
Yeah.
Yeah, reminds me of the magician archetype and like a tarot deck.
Hmm.
Like you have to, well, for one thing, it's scary, right? Like it can be really overwhelming to look out.
Well, the more you learn that you don't know, you
Yeah,
know, and that is really scary. It just feels like the more lessons I learn, the more lessons I know I need to learn. And it's frustrating. I'm like, I'm done learning fucking lessons. I don't want to learn any more lessons. I'm ready to just be me. But life just keeps hitting me with more lessons, you know, and it's exhausting, you
yeah,
know.
I know what you mean. Did you grow up religiously?
I didn't, not at all.
Hell yeah.
I know it's really rare, I feel like, but my parents they weren't perfect by any means, but they didn't force any religion on me, and they always kind of told me that I should just try and do whatever made me happy.
Hmm.
You know, they weren't perfect, but that part was really amazing.
What kind of music do your parents listen to?
Um, I don't know. My dad was listening to really cheesy rock stuff like Bob Dylan stuff. My mom was spiritual. My mom was teaching like yoga or meditation, chanting in our living room, and she was going to an ashram, and she was like teaching meditation in like women's prisons, and was really into kind of an Eastern religion, and that's kind of why so much of my art focuses around kind of like metaphysical topics is because my mom.
I got you. It's not
But
necessarily religious, but like your mom's very spiritually minded.
yeah, and she supported me learning about that stuff, but never forced me to.
Yeah, that's so
So
healthy. I love
way
that.
different than like taking someone to
Yeah.
church every Sunday or whatever, you know?
Yeah, for sure. It's like the door's open, but it's not being pushed on you. I mean,
Yeah.
that's anything else is going to end up ultimately like pushing people away, like if you like force it on them, they're going to resent it. It took me a long time to like have a healthy relationship with spirituality because of my upbringing. It took me like a long time to come like full circle with that. Like I was like obnoxiously atheist for a long period of time. which is its own kind of like faith thing, where it's just kind of like refusing to see. But
But when a church burns you so bad, and then you see how hard they burn other people, you're just kind of like, I'm done with that whole thing. Like, I get it. You don't want to get. I think there's a lot of people that almost feel like tricked or something, and you don't want to get tricked again. And also, there's a lot of people representing spirituality that make it look just so cheesy and
for sure.
inauthentic. No,
Oh, absolutely. And there's so much like profit incentive and organized religion.
so much, yeah.
It, like all that being said, like I am grateful for what I've learned. And one of the biggest things I've learned growing up like in a religious cult is that so many things in life are just like religious cults. Um, like key example would be politics, right? It's like super partisan politics where I vote with this side, and that is a ever shifting goalpost of what these, because none of these politicians actually represent people's interests. So it's like an ever shifting thing. In a lot of ways, I think that's more dangerous than religion because religion is like a little bit more static, but it's like, you know, being like a Republican or a Democrat 20 years ago has a completely different context than it does now. And it's going, and these things, to bring it back to what you were saying earlier at the beginning, is people don't have like cultural identity is sort of dissipating, where there's less difference between like a Chicago person and like an LA person. And like I would say this is true of like eras too. There's like you have the 80s, you have the 90s,
Mm.
you kind of have the 2000s, and then it's like after that it's like I don't really know what's representative of that piece of time, you know?
I think we're evolving so fast that it's just less helpful to think of it in chunks of 10 years, Like,
Mm.
I think that if we were going to talk about eras, we would probably have to talk about it in like 2 or 3 year parts.
Yeah,
But also, I mean, they're just a lot of that stuff was marked by technological advance, and now all the technological advances like not affecting art as strongly. Now that you can shoot such an incredible video on your phone, there isn't like so much more that we're going to evolve in video. Like we might evolve in virtual reality, but like video has hit its mark. Like if you had the same phone now for the rest of your life, it would still be like an amazing working phone that would do all the things you need. But if you had the same phone in the 80s, like, it would be like, or even, the first phones that could do video, you would see like a drastic change in the aesthetic, So like aesthetics are they're hitting a peak where we can't really get much better. And also because of the internet, everything's so muddy. Like I think about it because I grew up a graffiti writer.
mm,
In graffiti, every city had a really unique style. And you could really tell where someone was from instantly by the way they did graffiti. And then um, Instagram came and everyone was biting everyone's style. And all the styles kind of melded together. And now there's just like three styles. And I
interesting.
think that that's kind of how all art is happening more and more. And now it's like to tell the difference between a film, it's kind of has to be country to country almost. Like you can tell the difference between an American film and an Indian film, but like you can't, I'd say it's pretty hard to tell the difference between a 2006 film and a 2000 like 11 film. Like you might be able to, but it's going to get harder and harder and harder.
Yeah, I totally agree.
But I
It
can tell you a 70s film in a second. Like it's super
yeah.
easy.
I just watched we do a movie podcast. We like get together once a month. We just watched Come and See. You heard of this?
I haven't seen it, no.
I think it's released in 1985. but it had like a 9 year development hell. So it's like late 70s, and it's one of those. It's this Russian exploitation film that's extremely depressing, and it's about like Germans invading the Soviet Union, and it's just very bleak, but
Well,
um, it's just so like brilliant and like well made, and all that to say, like there's just the quality of the film, like the way it looks, like the kind of film they're using, like it's like you're saying, it's so recognizable as from being of that era, whereas like a movie made in 2006 compared to 2015 is not like you wouldn't know unless someone told you. Yeah.
well, now we have like AI making songs that sound old, or they're tricking old people into thinking like this is a song from your generation, like in a few more years of AI songs, music will be like it'll be really hard to tell if someone's trying to make it sound like it's from the 50s or something. It'll probably be like close to impossible to know
Yeah.
unless you look it up, It's gonna get so murky.
Yeah. I guess to hang on that for a second, like what do you think, where do you think all this is headed in, let's say, like 50 years? What do you think
Oh,
humanity
50
looks
years
like?
is pretty far.
That's pretty far. Let's say 20. Let's say 20.
Okay, okay. Um, yeah, I think it's really funny whenever anyone says AI, whenever anyone talks about the restrictions of AI, like AI can't do this, AI can't do that. That to me, that's like if you held a human baby up and you were like, this baby will never be able to run a race or never be able to build a house. It's like, well, yeah, it's a baby. Like we're looking at AI as it's a little baby, right?
Yeah.
We don't know what it can do. And I guarantee you it can do 10 times more than whatever you're imagining. Like
Yeah.
it's already proven itself. I mean, from the people that were the naysayers right when it first came out till now, it's already so much stronger, so much faster, and everyone's just dumping all of their resources into it. And like, I don't know if you've been seeing this, but there's this new like technology convention that just happened, and they're saying that more than half the convention is just robots. And every year, I mean, the robots are foolish now. They're falling and they're breaking. But I mean, that's not what robots are going to look like in 10 years. Like, robots are
Yeah.
going to be flawless, And there's already a robot you can buy now to do your laundry and, clean your house, all that stuff. And those robots are going to get cheaper. Everything gets cheaper and easier. I think that if society doesn't completely collapse, which I don't think it will, um, I think that all of that stuff is going to slowly take over, and there's going to be like a real cut down the middle of like whole societies that don't want any technology or like minimal. There's going to be like some kind of movement towards like not quite Amish, but like something like, where we're all gonna live in the woods and no robots allowed, but then most of us are we're gonna love the robot overlords. We're gonna love it, It's gonna be like Wall-E, but I don't think it's gonna be as polluted. I think like I am praying that science can handle like, the environmental problems and we can deal with the pollution and keep it survivable, But yeah, I mean, I think our lives are going to get way easier. There's going to be like a really hard time where all of the old people have to accept that we get free money. Like old people are going to have such a hard
Mhm.
time with the fact that government has to pay like a universal basic income.
Yeah.
Like that hill is going to be rough. And it could be war, it could be people starving, I don't know, but once we get over that hill, everyone's going to get universal basic income, and then slowly the robots are going to start helping us more and more to be comfy. And then I think there's like a belief that a lot of conservatives have that like if you paid for someone to just do whatever they wanted, that everyone would just lay around and like watch TV and do nothing. And I think there is like maybe a small percentage of society that would, but I think most people would do that for some time and then feel really shitty about themselves. And I think most people would start actually like finding way because your ego is not, you don't love yourself if you're literally spending all your time just watching TV and eating junk food. Like you're gonna feel that in your core of who you are as a human. And I do believe that there would be like a stretch of time where everyone would do nothing, but then I think people will come out and start helping their communities and start building things. And what will change is like this idea of the 40-hour work week, like this idea that we need to put 40 hours in order to be like productive. I think like it'll become way more reasonable. Like everyone will work, but they'll work like a way more reasonable amount, and their work will be way more like person to person, like helping kids get raised or like helping communities with things, you know? But that's
Yeah.
just me bullshitting. I've got no idea. I'm not a futurist.
No, yeah, I think we have no idea is a great answer. We
Yeah.
have whatever it is, it's not within the scope of what we'll think it is, right? That's for sure. I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Um, as far as like I know exactly what you're saying too about like the conservative just resenting the idea of like not like no, it's like kind of telling about your own mindset, right? Is like no one's going to be productive in this world. It's like no, you won't be productive in this world. You'll be the one that has to be told what your purpose and motivation is, where there's people like you that will like pursue novelty with that free time, right? Pursue their own personal growth. My concern is that just it won't be that optimistic. Like there won't be a universal income. It'll be a like uh what do you say, like a eugenics kind of like hellscape where it's like that is the truth. It ever like there's universal basic income for like a minority of people, and then like everyone else is kind of like left to fend for themselves. Um, like lots of war will be fought over that. I hope that's not the case, but
I just
also
got to imagine that war won't last very long. Like there, it's not like it used to be. Like if America wants to press the big red button on somebody, it's just going to be a bunch of drones like bombing people, I feel like, you know? Like so I don't think, I wonder if war will last as long as it used to, you know?
oh yeah, I'm sorry. When I'm thinking of what I'm conceptualizing wouldn't be like a war of nations, it'd be like a war of like class,
Oh,
basically.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Um, because yeah, I don't see these people giving a life to people. More like fend for yourselves, and like a small minority of people get that. I fucking hate the government, and that's a bipartisan statement. Uh, I think the more they're involved, the more they fuck shit up, and I most of all, I just don't fucking trust them. I don't think they have our best interests at heart. But you know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we have enough influence over the global what's going on, like what goes on in the world. Maybe we have more influence than I think.
I I 100% agree with what you're saying. I think that there are I think that we that at some point there's so many of us and so few of them that I would have a hard time imagining, because basically for them to inform their law, like they still need soldiers, right? And I would hope that things would get bad enough that they wouldn't be able to find the soldiers to inform the law. I mean, maybe if all the soldiers are robots, but I really do think that we will have some kind of general strike and politics will change. It seems impossible right now, but I also think about this a lot. I think about like there's two inventions that could change everything. And one invention would be if we could find a way to let technology tell us if someone's lying. If you couldn't lie, that would really change the landscape a lot. If you could like, if we had some sort of filter that you could put over a person's face and know if they're lying, politics would change so much. And the other thing I think of is like if I think the hardest part for politicians is empathy. They have no empathy for poor people, right? They have no empathy for disenfranchised, people of color or whatever. And I think that if we could create a technology that recorded your experience, if you like had won the gold medal in the Olympics and we recorded you winning it, and then that becomes like the blockbuster movie that everyone watches, and they get to go inside your body and see what the feeling is of winning the Olympics is. Like if we could figure out that technology and then suddenly the experience of like a little girl in the ghetto being kicked by somebody or something horrific happens, and all of our society gets to actually feel what it feels like for someone racist to hate them or to be a person of color in a white world. If they could actually download in their minds and feel the feeling of what it's like to not be white, I wonder if that would have an effect.
The the I'm imagining this like as like people being forced to live through these traumatic
Right.
experiences, like hold you down and make you like put the headset on your head.
Yeah.
It's like it's like I mean I think everyone could benefit from that, but like the I'm just imagining like the government doing that to people without their consent. It's like forcing you to empathize is like a
Well,
funny
actually,
funny
I'm
world.
not I'm not a huge fan of Bill Gates, but he tried to pass something which I thought was so cool. He tried to pass this thing where he wanted it to be where every high school senior got the opportunity to travel to a third world country. And I was like, damn, that is kind of similar to what I'm saying. Like, if we could get every high school senior that graduated high school to spend time in a third world country, it's crazy to me how many people have never left America or never even left their state or like never even really left their city. And it's when I left America and I went to other countries, it just blew my mind. And I had just such a wider view. And I think there's a lot of people who really could benefit from just seeing how other people live, you know?
Yeah. Or like forcing these politicians to take psilocybin or something. Ayahuasca.
I don't think that works,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah, maybe not that one, right?
I know I was talking to my ayahuasca shaman about that actually, and she was like, there's actually a big problem in the ayahuasca community where people with huge egos take ayahuasca and their egos get bigger because they now say, I'm someone who's done ayahuasca, I'm healed, and you're not. And they actually like can go through a hell of an ayahuasca trip and be like, I went through it. I did the work. But actually, like, you can do the work in a trip and then come out of it and you can kind of go back to your programming after a while, you know?
Yeah. If you
Unfortunately, I don't believe that psychedelics are a cure for narcissism. I wish it was.
yeah, I think they could benefit from like yeah, I don't know, getting a mushroom dose or something. It might help a little bit, but
Oh yeah, I definitely think it helps, but yeah,
yeah.
sometimes it makes it worse.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. It is that's a funny thing. It's like if you came out of that and you're like, I'm healed, it's like, well, you missed the point.
Right, right.
Yeah. Do you think I used to ask people if they believe in aliens, extraterrestrials? Uh the answer, I've done like 240 of these, and the answer is there has to be life out there, mathematically. Mathematical impossibility is what they say. Do you think extraterrestrials have interacted with Earth?
Oh yeah, big time. I also believe that the ocean is just
Oh yeah,
filled
yeah.
with aliens.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so with you, dude. Okay, so like
There's
currently you
uh,
think?
I mean, there you can on TikTok they have these submarines that crawl the bottom of the ocean, and you can watch these things, and there's like what they call a squid that looks like the monster from the second Aliens movie. And it's floating there 30 feet tall with thousands of tentacles. I mean, it's like, what the fuck is that? I don't know what that is. Like, I guess a lot of people think of Alien as like it can't be from Earth. And if you
Mm.
say, like, is there an alien that traveled here through space to get to us? I'm not sure about that, but I do believe that like what I consider alien is like intelligences that we haven't made contact with that are outside of our imagination. And I think we're finding them all the time in the ocean. And I think there's plenty that are hiding from us. Like it would be if you just had a really sensitive ability to smell, it would be so easy to live in the woods and avoid humans. Like all you would need to do is just be able to smell a human coming like 50 feet away, and you could just gingerly walk the other direction. Like, I mean, we're getting better and better at like scanning stuff, heat signatures and stuff, but there's so many places for like a Bigfoot to hide or whatever. And we don't even, the what do they say? Physicists say like that the world is filled with like 70% dark matter or 90% dark matter. Like there's just so much going on we don't understand.
I like the way you put it about alien doesn't necessarily mean outer space. It's just intelligent life that we haven't come across. That's well put. Yeah.
Hard space is so empty, it's so boring to me, and the sea is just teeming with life, and it's so crazy to me that everyone is so obsessed with this giant open nothingness, and people seem to care very little about the ocean. And also fucking UFOs are flying into the water, they're flying into the ocean. We have video of them going underwater, and it's like we haven't even seen the bottom of the ocean, and like I think we've discovered like 7% of the world's oceans. Like it's it's just crazy how little time we spend down there.
Yeah. I saw this thing recently that um the Mayflower coming to America saw lights underneath the ocean, like
Whoa.
blinking lights. Like that was
Whoa.
on there. Yeah. It's like it's
Crazy.
not even new. Like I totally understand the argument about like, well, maybe the government has reversed engineered things. It's like, yeah, what about ancient China reporting stuff? What about
Yeah.
Ezekiel reporting stuff like that? Like, what the fuck do you do with that?
And I
Yeah.
mean, if there was like an intelligent life that was 10 times smarter than a human living in underwater, how easy would it be to avoid a human underwater? I mean, there's so much space and we're not in any of it. Like they could very easily camouflage themselves underground and very easily find ways of avoiding humans. I mean, it's just like it wouldn't be hard. The question would be more, why haven't they made contact? And yeah, that can go a million ways. I
Yeah.
think they have. I
Yep.
do think that the government has talked to aliens and is aware
Hmm.
of aliens, and um, I yeah, but uh, man, yeah, I definitely think that we've made contact for sure, and they're hiding stuff from us.
Yeah. I uh, so when we talk about like aliens outside of this plane, like you're obviously someone who's had a lot of psychedelic experiences, I would assume. Uh and a lot of people report coming across entities that way. Um, I'm sure you're also aware of like kind of like left hand path, kind of like it's your own psychology. Um, and personally, I think it's kind of one of those things where it's irrelevant. It's not really the right question whether this
Right,
stuff exists or
right.
not. But do you have any thoughts about it?
Yeah, I mean, I love that point. I think like Terrence McKenna talks about how your personal experience is the only thing that matters. And so if you experience the entity, then the entity is real. Whether it like whether it, existed in the physical physics of our world or not, if you came into interaction with an entity that had an effect on you, that is a real experience that you had. And that versus the coffee cup on your table, what matters is, did it have an effect on you? Did it scare you? Did it inspire you? Did it mean anything to you? Like, that's what matters. Having a hallucination that's absolutely not real, that inspired a life path, is way more real than like a piece of trash outside on the street. But what you were also talking about, oh, I think that there's a ton of people that have the experience of mantis beings doing operations on them. It's a very common experience on ayahuasca.
Yeah.
I've had the experience many times of being in the operating table and having mantis beings operate on me. And that is a thing that you can find on every corner of the earth. There's stories of these mantis beings. So it's not that every single person in every culture thinks, some think it's a whale, some think it's a bear, like there's a ton of us that have all had mantis experiences. So like I don't know what that is. There could be, Carl Jung would say it's like some subconscious iconography, but I don't know. Like praying mantises are not that ubiquitous that I would assume that makes that tracks. I think it's pretty suspicious.
Yeah. Again, this becomes one of those things where we talk about word, like the words get weird because I think typically when people talk about what's real and what isn't, they mean like physical and tangible, like
Right.
exist on our plane. And it's like, well, that's when we get into metaphysics about like, well, is it real? It's like, well, of course it's not real because it's not here, which we wouldn't define anything that wasn't here as real in like a colloquial way. Um, and then at that point, it's like, well, who's to say your imagination isn't real? Let's say the character you pop up in your mind like doesn't exist somewhere in a way. And yeah.
Well, typically when someone says, "Is it real?" they mean, "Can you measure it?"
Oh,
Uh,
interesting.
usually it's like, "Can you measure it?" and then, "Can I measure it?" and "Can we come up with the same measurement?" You know?
Interesting. So
Um,
repeatability with like DMT and ayahuasca is kind of a map of that then.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, it's an indicator. It's an indicator that something exists past just, the random thought in your mind. But there's the problem is with that scientific outlook is there's just so many things that aren't measurable. You know, like uh, uh like love, or how you feel when you see a piece of art, or there's a million psychological experiments where they'll have like a bunch of students enter a room in a school, and then they'll say, like a great one is like a professor will have someone come in, and the professor and another person will get into a fight, and it'll be really loud, and everyone will watch, and the person will storm out, and then they'll find out that that was all a joke, and the professor will go, "Okay, let's talk about what just happened. What color shirt was that person wearing? What color was their hair? What did they say, and then what did I say?" And literally everyone in the room has a completely different story of how it went down. Like, everyone has so much of it is affected by their personal biases, by a million things. And so, what was real about that experience? Like, yes, that person was physically in the room, but like, why does that measurement of like physical reality mean fucking anything? It doesn't mean
Yeah.
shit if for one person that was a traumatizing experience, and for another person it was exciting, and another person it was boring. Like, that's what matters, not how tall the person was or the color of their shirt. Like, the amount of effect that science can have on the world, outside of like medicine and creating thing like building buildings, stuff like that. But the amount of effect that science can have on like our personal experience of the universe, our happiness, our unhappiness, those things can't be measured. Those things are very flowing and changing and growing, and those are oftentimes the most important parts of your life,
Yeah,
you
for
know?
sure, man. Um, I won't take up too much more of your time. I was just usually I ask people if they have any like ghost stories or alien stories. With someone like you, I guess, is there a story you want to tell before you go? In any kind of story? Could be a drug experience, it could be um supernatural experience, could be any kind of story.
I think that you know, my whole project with Death to Realism is trying to convince people that magic exists, and it's a pretty big ask for a lot of people. A lot of people are really dead set on it not existing. And oftentimes it's because they don't want to feel foolish, and oftentimes it it makes reality a little bit more of it gives them like a feeling like maybe they have to step up. Like reality isn't happening to them. A lot of people want to feel like reality is happening to them, and so when something bad happens, it's not their fault. And the more you take responsibility for your life, the faster you can grow. And I think I'll share. There's a story of like when I really, really knew magic was real, and I think it helps people that are really stuck in like the physical plane. Um, I kind of was practicing magic for a while and not really knowing, like feeling like this was fun, this was like adding to my life. I'm a big believer in magical thinking where I choose what I believe based on what's most fun in my life because I want to have a really fun life. So I was like, I'm going to choose that magic is real and I'm just going to go down this path and see what happens. And so I was going on a road trip with this girl I was dating, and we decided that we were going to make this road trip like an art experience. We had all these different short films we wanted to make. We wanted to make these costumes, and we started like mapping out on our trip all these places we could stop to make videos, to take photographs, do photo shoots. We made all these costumes, and we had like this whole big idea about how we were going to make all this art. So before we left, the night before we left, we did this big magic ritual, and the emphasis of the ritual was to make great art. So we cast our make great art sigil. We wake up the next morning, we go on our road trip, and 8 hours into our road trip, I realize that I have lost the envelope with all of our money for the trip. It's all gone. I had like $500 for the trip and it's just not there. And I start freaking out. And then we get to our first campsite and we get our tent out. And one of the poles, it's a brand new tent we bought from Walmart. And one of the poles for the tent just isn't in the bag. It's just not there. And we're like, this trip's going horribly. What's going on? And the next day we're like well, we get a hotel room for the night, and the next day we pick this one spot that's like kind of off the beaten path that has this really beautiful landscape to shoot our first piece of art. And we end up taking the wrong road on Google Maps, and our car gets stuck in the mud and we have no reception.
Oh shit.
And we're in the middle of nowhere with no reception. It's basically like muddy desert. And we're like, we're city people. We don't know what to do in this situation. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna start digging our car out of the mud. I grab like a random rock and I'm just like on my knees digging this car out of the mud. And I find this like giant tomato bug. And if you don't know what a tomato bug is, it's one of the scariest looking bugs I've ever seen.
I'm
It's
looking it
horrific.
up. Keep going. I'm
Uh,
looking it up, but I gotta see it.
it's really scary. It was an albino tomato bug to make it even worse. And I was so tired. I had literally been digging with a rock in the mud for 45 minutes. I was like going crazy, exhausted, and I find this bug. And for some reason in my mind, I'm like, this looks like a Pokemon. My this girl I'm dating, she's gonna think this is adorable. And I call my girl over and I'm like, look at this cute bug I found. And she looks at it and sees it and screams bloody murder and runs off into the distance. And she's crying her eyes out. And yeah, I don't,
That thing?
no, that's definitely not it. No, no, no. Um,
Okay.
Wait, look up potato bug. It might be potato bug. Um, she's screaming bloody murder and she sits down to cry. And
Oh God.
yeah, you see it now.
Oh, that?
Yeah, yeah. Oh God, I don't want to look
Oh
at it. It's
God, dude.
horrible. It's
Oh,
horrible.
how big is that?
Like 4 inches.
Oh
It's
my
so
God.
nasty. So
Oh, it's
nasty.
horrible. I hate it.
Yeah, I hate it. Yeah.
I'm
So
sorry, go on.
she sits down to cry and she sits on an anthill and gets covered in ants. So she comes running back screaming and I'm like, "What's going on?" She locks herself in the car and she's bawling, crying, and I'm like dizzy in a haze. I'm like delusional, right? And I'm just like, I gotta keep digging. I gotta get the fuck out of here. What's happening? So I keep digging. And in my mind, I start imagining, I'm a graffiti writer, so I start imagining this really cool mural that I'm going to paint. And each part of the mural is going to depict a certain part of this crazy adventure that we went on and all the things we had to endure. And I'm like, oh man, this mural is going to be so beautiful. And it hits me. I'm like, the fastest way to get to making great art is to suffer. Suffering is going to inspire the most powerful art. I'm
Damn.
like, damn, asking to make great art is not a great thing to ask from the universe. And I'm like,
Oh,
fuck. And so I tell my girl this, and she's like, oh my God, you're right. I dig us out of the hole and we get going again and we stop and I have like a Roman candle in the trunk and we make a new sigil for peace on our trip. And we say we're going to give up on all the art shit and we're just going to have a peaceful trip. And we light off this Roman candle, and the rest of the trip goes so smoothly. Like an hour later, her roommate calls and tells me the envelope with all my money like fell out of my pocket on the way out the door, and it was all still there. And like everything else went so smoothly and seeing like the entire trip fall apart in 24 hours and then seeing like a really dramatic shift the moment that we changed our magical intention, it just it showed me how magic is so much like talking to a genie. Be careful what you wish for. Like it's not something to be played with lightly. When you do magic, think about what you're asking.
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And
I've
so
got
yeah, that was the moment where I was like, "Oh wow, this is really powerful. This is not a joke."
thank you for sharing that. That was such a crazy story. Yeah, I never had anything strange happen to me when I was a kid, but like when I went looking, like if you seek, you will find, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Tyler, thank you so much for joining, man. I had a really good time.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah. Check out Tyler Nacho and his magazine and all the other awesome things that you do. I hope you come back through Nashville sometime. It'd be good to see you.
Oh, I definitely will. Should I say my socials?
Yeah, yeah. And
Okay.
I'll put links to them below too. But yeah, shout them
Okay,
out.
yeah. T Nacho on Instagram. I post on Instagram almost every day, puppets and weird movies I like and all kinds of stuff. TylerNacho.com if you want to see my art, and KillPrettyMagazine.com if you want to see my magazine.
Oh yeah. Tyler, have a great night. And Alice, we'll see you next week.